All right, hello everybody. I am signed into the VLab to mimic a Windows computer. So it'll look like the computers that you would use either in the library or in Sanford Hall. And what we're going to do is take a look at SPSS and look at how to put together a crosstab so that you have the instructions when you need it. First and foremost, I've got my data file saved to the desktop. If you notice here, I've just grabbed the practice data that we were looking at in class. It's the restaurants and Yelp reviews thing. It's completely fake data, just so you know. So don't go around, proclaiming that it's real. First things first, we need to load SPSS. So I'm going to go down here to the search windows. I'm going to type in SPSS, and I'm going to click on IBM SPSS Statistics 25. And this will take just a minute or two to load. In the meantime, I will let you know that one of the advantages to going ahead and preloading your data on your desktop is that we'll make importing it slightly easier because it will be easier to find in the software. So when you first load IBM SPSS, you should get this little screen up here. I usually just get rid of it. It's kind of just an advertisement for stuff that IBM is saying the software can do. We don't need it. We've got this here in the middle. This is our basic spreadsheet. It's going to look a lot like an Excel spreadsheet, but it does work slightly differently. So what I'm going to do is go File, Import Data, and Excel. And it's going to take a little bit of time. There's a bit of a delay because I'm on the virtual lab. I'm going to change this to desktop because that's where our practice data lives. I'm going to click on practice data and then click on Open. And that's going to load our data from Microsoft Excel into SPSS. This is just asking us if everything is cool, if we make sure that the data is good. It gives us a little sample of the data down here. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. It's going to load this screen. This is the output viewer. If you notice, it says Output 1 on the top. Any charts or graphs or tables that we make in SPSS will all show up here. So I'm just going to let it hang out here in the background, and I'm going to go back to regular SPSS. And if you noticed, our data view looks like a spreadsheet, just like Excel did. If we click down here at the bottom, I'll just wiggle the mouse here so it gets big. There you go. It is data view and variable view. If we click on variable view, what it's actually doing left to right is identifying what each of those columns represents in the data view. And so what we're going to do is a crosstab of the, let's say we're going to look at where the person was from as far as their review, like where their account said it was from, which is where review from. And we're going to compare that to the number of stars. Now, number of stars is pretty straightforward because the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4 don't represent something else. The 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, I think. I can't remember how many stars it was now. They represent a literal thing, right? It is 3 stars is a better restaurant than 2 stars than is 1 star. So we don't need to change anything with that. However, with the where's the reviewer from, that doesn't necessarily directly translate into anything. So it'll help us in the long run if we can go ahead and give it some titles. So if we click under values, if you notice you have values here, and right now it says none. If I click on the 3 little periods next to it, it's going to give us an option to essentially relabel what those things mean in SPSS, and that'll help us just visually keep things in order when we output a crosstab. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the values. So we're going to say that anytime a 1 shows up, that means that the reviewer was from Statesboro. So we click Add. So now if you'll notice, 1 equals Statesboro. Let's go ahead and do the next one as well. We'll go ahead and finish this off. So 2, we're going to say that is surrounding counties. And this would have been things that we would have already determined in our method section. And we're just transferring it over here to keep everything straight. So let's make number 3 into the rest of Georgia. Let's make 4 another southern state. So we would have, in our method section or in outside resources, we would have found something that would have identified what a southern state is. We'll say value 5 is another state. we'll say another non-southern state. And then finally, number 6, we will call the label for that outside US. So now that we have clicked Add to change all of our variables from the number that's in the spreadsheet to what the thing actually represents, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And then those values now exist there. So if we go back to Data View, you'll notice that the numbers for where's the reviewer from, those numbers are still the same. It's not going to change them yet. It's going to change them when we actually do our crosstab. So the thing you are all here to see, how to actually make the crosstab, we go up to Analyze at the top. Then we hover over Descriptive Statistics. And then we hover over and down to Crosstabs. And when we click on Crosstabs, we then have the ability to change rows and columns. I generally like a crosstab to be a little bit shorter and wider if necessary, because numbers don't take up a lot of space, and so it just makes it a little bit more space conscious when we write it that way. So let's say that we want our rows to be the number of stars. Actually, yeah, let's do that. And then we will make our columns where the person's from. Now the statistics, we need to change one thing really fast. So if we hover over to statistics and click on it, we want to click the box for chi-square, CHI-square. Chi-square is a very simple statistic that will give us a sort of means to fit for the crosstabs that we're doing. We will hit continue, and we will then hit OK. And if we go to our output here, it'll sort of pop up. We now have a crosstab for our data. So what you have with this crosstab is, if you notice at the top, it is comparing the number of stars given by the reviewer to where the reviewer is from. Across the top of the crosstab, we have our locations, Statesboro, surrounding counties, Georgia, southern state, and another non-southern state. And then across the left-hand side here, we have our number of stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so what this is then telling us, the data that's actually in this, is how many times these things overlap. So 5 of the 5-star reviews were from accounts that were listed as being in Statesboro. The surrounding counties, 2 and 2 were for the 2 and 3 reviews. And then across the bottom and the side gives us our totals in both directions. And everything adds up, all in all, to 30. So what we're going to have down here is our Pearson chi-square. When we go to report this at the bottom of the table, which I'll do in the next video, you've got the actual value of the Pearson's Pear-square, or the Pearson's chi-square, yeah. We've got the degree of freedom, and then we've got the two-sided significance. The top line is what we report, and this, it appears, as if it is not statistically significant, or at least it doesn't have any grand trends to it based on this significance. We would want this to be 0.05 or less to show significance. Part of the reason this one isn't showing significance is because it is quite literally random, because I made it up, and also because the number of total coded things at 30 is pretty overall low. So this actually gets you the crosstab itself. It's very simple. It's only a few clicks, and it will get you the crosstab. And I think it's a good idea for your content analysis to go ahead and do a crosstab for most of your variables across other variables to see what you've managed to find. And then you can sort them out in your review section as necessary. You can put the stuff that directly connects to your research questions. You can put those in their sort of necessary order in the results section. And then if you just find something that's interesting but you weren't necessarily looking for it, you can put that at the end of the results section. All right, so this is video 1 where I have showed you how to make the crosstab from imported data in SPSS. What I'm going to show you next in the next video is how to then translate this crosstab into a table using Microsoft Word. All right, I will see you on the other side.